So 21 years it's been since I started the Gina Din Group, and it's been such a great 21 years. I mean, it's so exciting to see, the number of campaigns that we've done, and to just see the evolution of PR in those 21 years. And we've shaped some really incredible conversations. I was just thinking the other day about, when Kofi Annan helped us through the post-election violence, and what a big role we played as a company in crafting the messages and working with him. And it's just so sad that this is the year that we lost Kofi Annan, because he was such an incredible person. And I learned so much from him, and I think it's just been really interesting to stand on the shoulders of such giants and to learn from them. I know this year, in our 21st year, we got to handle and to spend time with Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And Lorna, I think you just joined, and I think your first day, I said,
first
by the
day,
way,
yes,
I have something to tell you.
And she goes, you're going to be working on a campaign, on an event, and guest of honor is President Barack Obama. I'm like, okay, what does that entail? And I think it's part of the things that you were very clear about what shaping African conversation means, and I was very excited and gung-ho and was committed to this. But then starting to think of someone like that who was so critical in people reimagining what it would be like to be African. I like the way he always says, I'm the first Kenyan to be, African. I'm the first Kenyan to be president of the United States, and he does still have a link to that heritage.
So Lorna, let's look at the day and the highlights from actually when he landed and when you and I were at the airport.
So his team were awesome, really cool guys. I really enjoyed working with the whole logistics team. You could see they were a well-oiled machine. But him getting off the plane and all the off-cuff remarks he made.
Yeah, he was funny.
He was funny, and he was chill. He just came out really relaxed, really chill.
He was coming home.
Yes, and then he was cracking jokes and being very personable. So the whole time, and he was like, oh, so you're the brains of the operation. How's that going? And he was like, I'm fine.
And I'm like, excuse me?
That image of you making faces and laughing, but it was just a very light moment. So that for me, I think was really great. When he got to Sauti, even just as he did his walkabout, as he went to the different spaces and just beginning to really understand what that meant, that for me was key. And how he was really cool with the kids.
He was awesome.
He was very open, very embracing to it. And
he had fun. He had a great day.
He had a great day.
Yeah, he really did. And I think that was important. I mean, I really wanted him to enjoy it.
Yes, he definitely had that. And then at the basketball court, he was engaged. He was like, let's do this, talking very personal about what things like sports did for him, what basketball did for him growing up.
And the story of him, his father, the last gift that his father gave him was the basketball.
Yes.
It was just deep.
And just that really connection deep. And how that kept
and we were there.
And we were there for that. And then I think for me, my total absolute highlight, and I shared this in the small room we had, was his journey to being president, and how I'm sure myself and the rest of the world followed it intently in 2008, but where I was in 2008 and where I was 10 years later with him. And it was a wonderful thing to share with him. It was very personal for me and the role that he played. And I think that is what really capped it all. And I think until that moment, I had never looked at him. I was looking at the whole process as an event. I was working. I was in full.
Yeah, you were in work
full
mode.
Work mode. Mm-hmm. But for those few minutes in that lunchroom, I left work.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just shared with him what his journey means. And I don't know
it was very personal.
Yeah, if anyone understands, when you have a hero who you know in your wildest dreams, you will never meet, and they're sitting 2 feet across the way from you, listening to you and taking your words and using them in reference. And it was very personal for me, because 10 years ago, my life was on the line and he was fighting to be president. And I was in a place where I was in India, and there was, the only news that was in English was, this guy is running for president. And I literally watched him every single day.
From your hospital bed?
From my hospital bed, most of the time. And when he was announced as president, I was like, oh my goodness, this is happening. If it can happen for him, then stuff can happen for me. And I remember in early January, in one of the papers, there were 2 stories about people who are non-Indian and who had African heritage. One was on his story about him being president and taking over and being sworn in, and the other was about me having undergone my 3rd surgery.
Oh my goodness.
And for me, that, and having to be able to tell him that story and how he...
And it touched him.
And it touched him, and how he came
him,
and was like, that's a beautiful story, well done. And he gave me a hug, and I was like, this is what it's about. And I think that, forget everything else, forget all it took together, that for me was my biggest one.
Yeah, I think for me it was him sort of, meeting my kids and saying, oh, here are these, here we are, the Kenyan mixed race kids, which was really sweet. It's just like he totally identified with them. And then the dinner, which you weren't at, but the night before we all came to Sauti Kuu, and we had an African buffet, and they're bringing the food round, and he saw chapatis, and he goes, oh, chapo. And it was just like this. It was oh chapo, and then he said, and the waiter said, would you like brown or white, Mr. President? He said, no, why are you asking me? Just bring all of them. I love chapo. And it was just so sweet that, here you were, and I was sitting next to him, the former president of the United States, who had no airs, so much humility. And he just talked to every single person. He remembered their name.
Yes,
it was amazing. And then when the ugali came, and he said, I'm going to take a little bit of that because I know tomorrow when I go to Kisumu, Granny's going to be feeding me with ugali. And it was just like, it was a very interesting event because he was coming back as a former president, but he really was coming home. And I think that's what I got very early on in the visit.
Yes.
That, he didn't really want too much drama around him being a former president.
Yes.
He was actually coming home. It was
and
beautiful.
You guys had, in the course of the day, you had little quips happening.
Oh yeah, we did.
He really identified with some of the things you're going. And it was, at the end of it, you felt like you'd made a new friend.
Completely. Completely. He was just very, very sweet, very caring. He loves his sister. He loves Elma.
Yes.
And that was very clear. And he was just amazing with Granny.
Yes.
Granny really, she was amazing. The way she got up and danced, that was
I
so
was
cute.
like, Granny, we're trying to not wheel you around. Why is that? You could see him, he's like, okay, she's dancing. It was a great energy. I think the highlight then for me was the kids. It's really what it meant for those kids. What seeing them looking at him and realizing this is one of us. And now he kept telling them, this is, your future could be me. You could be me, and that was really critical from the people who were entertaining him, whether it was the Ghetto Classics kids or the Sauti Kuu kids. He definitely has an affinity for that next generation and making sure that they feel and they know what their role is.
And I think for me it was actually looking at, we talk about shaping African conversations all the time, but here we were, with somebody who's, probably for Africa has shaped the conversation better than anybody else globally. And here we were sharing the stage with him. I think that was just, it was really like very deep for me from a very personal level. And to kind of look at the 21 years that we've been in business, and usually in the old days when you turned 21, your parents gave you the key, to the world, and it was really almost like it was symbolic for me, that event, to say in our 21st year, here we were sharing this stage, and just now deciding that actually the world is really our oyster, and we definitely can shape conversations globally. I know for the number of years that I've been in this business, we really looked very inward into Kenya, and I really do think that after in our 21st year, we're now looking globally, we're looking at shaping not just the Kenyan narrative, but the global narrative for Kenya. And I think you and I were having this discussion the other day, is that, lots of other countries have an African agenda, except for Africa, and I really think it's important for us to be part of setting that Africa agenda.
And even for me, it's where there is an agenda, because you've got all these organizations that have talked about the fact that they are working on it. There is, whether it's 2063 from the AU, Vision 2030, but how many of those things are tangible, tactile for you and I, for the ordinary person, for companies to pick up? What do things like the Global Compact goals mean for individual companies? Is it only for big companies? And when we talk about shaping conversations, it's, I think, also for us starting to look at things and saying, if you are building a regional business in Kenya, in Africa, that can go global, you're a global CEO.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't be, global CEOs are only people from the West who are now coming in here. Like, you are building a global business. And this positioning for me is very clear as to where we need to go.
And
as we are
demystifying
21.
some of all this,
Yes.
some of all the speak that's
Yes.
around
Oh,
it, you know, because
gosh.
I think that's a role that's really important because, you know, when I look at us, and we're not a big company, but, you know, I think it's just vision and just being able to kind of speak into where you want to be. And I don't think enough people do that. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to the next 21. I'm excited to see where you're going to take shaping African conversations. And I know just in the times that we've done stuff together, I mean, it's so exciting to see where we're going.
I think for me, it's been such an honor and a privilege to come in during the shift. It took deer caught in headlights moment after you were like, your first big one is going to be to handle this and the different things. But also for me, there's something you have done that I think is a lesson to many people. You've really allowed me to take control. You really allowed me to make decisions. You really allowed me to, you know, take this business and this brand that you have built, and you've trusted me to be able to carry it forth.
And it would be silly for me not to, though, wouldn't it? I mean, I think that's a mistake lots of people make, is that there's a succession plan, and then they want to kind of interfere with what that person's doing.
Yes.
And I think, you know, it's hard for a founder, I think, sometimes not to sort of say, oh, I want to do it this way still.
Yes.
You know, but I try and do everything I can to stay out of your way.
Yes, no, you do. And I think sometimes I'm like, you're too far out of the way, come back. But there's a very deliberate, you know where the ship is going. You have a vision. You're like, maybe just the route is going to be slightly different, but you're happy to let me steer the ship. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last couple of months, just really working with you, is you'll be like, okay, so this is what you're doing. This is what I think. And I'll come and say, all right, maybe we should try this. And you're like, okay, just keep me updated, and you're gone. But even that alone is you seeding something that says, I get that we're going here, but I also get we don't have to take this route.
Yeah,
we're going to take whatever. But as long as we're keeping the momentum going. And so for me, it's to say to you that 21, yes, is a year that you're given keys, but it's also really difficult here for parents.
Yeah, of course it is. Definitely is.
It's a very difficult time to be able to say.
Because you kind of have to let go of your child.
Yes.
This is definitely my child.
But they remain your child.
They remain my child.
Yes,
and you know that I can always bring them back and say, you know what, guys, I don't think you did that very well, or whatever. But I think you also have to let them go through their teething problems and make the mistakes that I definitely made, and you definitely will make.
Yes.
But that's all part of becoming an adult, isn't it? And getting there.
So the Gina Din Group is officially an adult. We are legal in countries across the world. We have reached drinking age in countries across the world.
Absolutely.
And I think it is a testament to say that a business set up by a woman in the 90s has been resilient enough to stand the test of time.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
A dramatically changing environment under circumstances that I cannot even begin to imagine what you've been through in the last couple of years.
That's going to take her. That's going to take a series.
Yeah, we keep saying there's a book. She needs to do a book. But for me, it's to say to you, thank you. Thank you for the lessons. Thank you for keeping at it. In times when I'm sure you were not sure you wanted to keep at it. But thank you for keeping at it.
But you know what, I think that's it. You've got to be resilient, and you've got to, but I think it's also, you know, realizing that, you know, what you've done for 21 years has to change. You know, and change is inevitable. So, you know, I think that's, for me, is what's so exciting, is that change is going to happen, change is inevitable, and the conversations that we're having are going to be, are going to be amplified. Yeah. And I'm so excited that in our 21st year we got to share the stage with President Obama, but that's really the beginning of the next 21.
So, that's Gina Din Group at 21 years. Happy birthday. I'm going to make sure Gina gets some champagne after this.
A lot.
After this, but please, thank you very much for joining us, and subscribe to our channel, Shaping African Conversations, and please join us and give us your comments. We'd love to hear from you. From all of us at the Gina Din Group, thank you very much, and happy birthday to us.
Thank you. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday. Oh, mwah.